Hey, Mike.
Hey, Will, what's up?
Nothing much, nothing much. Just very excited for all this. Do you have the run of show like Google Doc in front of you?
Uh,
If
yeah,
not, I can send you the link.
yeah, I do. I do.
Why is there two Will Pattersons? That's weird.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
What? Okay, that's interesting. Um, hmm.
I'm sure more than one is enough. I'm sure there are plenty of people that will say that.
Yeah. Well, let's see if. Oh, apparently I have to name you. So that's interesting. So that's weird. I've never seen that where it's like I have to give you names. That's weird. Anyway, yeah, little wrinkle as long as we can fix it. So okay, so you're in it. Great. And yeah, I'll just kind of communicate with you through there rather than the chat. So
You want to send me a message through there just so that I know I'm in?
oh, sorry. Yeah, I see like your button on there. Let me just I'll type in, and I think you also have like editing power too. So let's see. Yes, you see? Is anything there? Like,
Yeah, let me. Are we? Let me go to.
so we got the chat. I'll drop the link in the chat. So yeah, yeah, I see your red cursor, so it does show that you're in it. Get a better light or lighting situation here. Okay, yeah, we'll work with it. All right, and well, then again, I'm not going to be on TV for too long. I always forget how to get to like certain functions on here.
That easily makes two.
Yeah, like, ugh. Okay, whatever. But but yep, we're rolling, so that's good. Attendees are starting. I'm gonna. So, hey, Patricia. So you're the first one in. I'm Will. I'm the secretary for the New York Association of Black Journalists. Nice to have you in. And okay, who's Will Patterson number three? Who are we renaming today? This is so crazy. Hey, sorry.
Hi,
Hi, Brittany or
Allison.
sorry, it's 50-50. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm guessing. Anyway, never mind, never mind. But yeah, for some reason, every single panelist is coming up under my name. So I
oh,
got
I
to,
can just rename it under.
can you rename it on your end?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I can do it on my end. No worries.
Please do that. Please do that. So I'm kind of discovering that on the,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
how's the day going?
Yeah. Hopefully, when people log in early, we can go through those kind of things. So.
Yeah, so, but luckily, I mean, we got like another 13 minutes or so. So, I mean, this is the part where we're supposed to be all funny and candid and, going like, oh my goodness, everyone's coming with my name. What's going on? But, but yeah, so this is actually, so I work a weekend schedule. So this is
Oh.
actually my Sunday. although with the holiday tomorrow, 3-day weekend. So
So
yeah,
tomorrow's Monday.
yeah. Well, it would be, but tomorrow's also Juneteenth. Got the gala going on, so have the day off and enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Mhm. So,
Oh, Michael, your mic.
Mike,
Where am I? Hear me now?
Yeah, just a little bit more.
Oh,
Turn up a little bit more.
we could do
I'll
that.
even mute my.
That's doable. Hold on a minute. Let me.
A better. But little.
How's that?
Okay, that's a bit better.
How about this one right here?
KWASI.
Hey, how's it going, folks? KWASI, long A.
Sorry, forgive me, I'm texting and so
That's fine because that was gonna be a question of mine. So
Oh,
there you
that's
go.
actually perfect. That mic is perfect.
This why we hop on early.
Yeah.
Get all the fun stuff out of the way. How you guys doing?
Doing great, doing great. I'm gonna change your name really quick here because you're coming up as me for some reason. I have no idea what's going on here, but I love it.
Okay.
So, there you go. It's good. Excellent. And let me see how I can see where this one.
tell me how that is for my voice. Is it better?
Yeah, I
How's
hear you
that?
fine.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good on mine.
I just finished recording like
There we are.
narrating 2 YouTube channels. All my settings is all off.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Perfect.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Allison, how's everything going on your end? It's good to meet you.
Oh, good.
Quasi, what's the correct pronunciation for your last name?
Boadi. Yeah, correct one is Boadi, but I get Boadi a lot, so either or is fine.
No, so I make phonetic keys for myself that no one is to see because they think reading is not fundamental for me. So I just make my own phonetic keys so that it's appropriate.
All right, consummate professional. I appreciate it.
And that's how I, try to do. What's in the correct
Mhm.
pronunciation for your last name? Allison going once?
Oh, I'm so I'm so sorry. Hazel, yeah, like eye color.
I have a cousin and she spells it the way you do, but don't
Oh,
pronounce
it's Hazel.
it that way.
Yeah, Hazel.
Press to 3.5. We'll go a little higher. Okay, I think I like that a little better.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm in the middle of recording myself, but I'm in like the hallway of the studio, so I'm here though.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, and if you can rename yourself for some reason, you're
What's my name?
me, quote unquote. I have no idea why that's
I don't
happening.
know why I'm you. I should be me.
I know.
Hold on, let's work this out.
If you're having any trouble, I can also fix that up as well.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be amazing.
All right. Okay. BEBE Flight.
Yeah.
Perfect. Done.
Yay.
Which is going to be the next question. What's the correct pronunciation for it?
It's flight, like an airplane. BB,
Right.
like a
BB.
gun.
Okay.
I'm just 0 for 3 on the pronunciations here. It's on brand, really. I'm horrible the first time, but after that, it's like perfect every time. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, we'll probably start this up in about we'll give it until like 7:04. So So yeah, we'll start at 7:04 on the dot. Hey everybody, this is Will Patterson. I am the Secretary for the New York Association of Black Journalists. We'll be starting the panel in about 4 minutes. Thank you very much for attending. If you have any questions for our panelists, you can leave them in the chat. We're going to have a very good chat panel going on. And also, if you need any information about the New York Association of Black Journalists, you can visit our website at nyabj.org or our linktree, linktree.com/nyabj, as well as our Instagram at NYABJ. So we'll be starting shortly. We're just going to wait for a few more attendees to come in, get situated, get some snacks, maybe a water or two. So it's very hot out here. So water is very necessary. Also, if you do have any questions about NYABJ, I can answer them right now in the chat. Or if you just want to say hello. Start our panel in about a minute right now. Right. Okay, so let's get this going. Hello everyone, welcome to the State of Black music panel. My name is Will Patterson. I am the secretary for the New York Association of Black Journalists. We are a chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, servicing the New York metro area. So every month we have our monthly virtual panels as well as in-person events. So if you'd like to be a member, it's only $50 a year, and you can check out our website at www.nyabj.org. We're also on Instagram at NYABJ as well. This panel will actually be released next Thursday as part of our podcast, The Sidebar by NYABJ. We release a podcast every other Thursday covering Black media and Black media makers. So we're very happy to have this as part of our programming. We've just actually released our 50th episode this year. So hopefully we'll get to 100 very, very soon. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to one of the top producers of the Sidebar by NYABJ. Super talented guy. You're going to be a fan. I count him as a friend as well. Michael Ray, you got the floor. Unmute.
There we go. What's life without just a little bit of technical issue? Just a little bit, not a lot. Once again, well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It is an honor and a privilege to sit amongst a very distinguished panel, as well as all the individuals who are either with us tonight for the panel or who will be listening at further points. My name is Michael W. Ray. I am a producer, one of the many fabulous producers of the Sidebar, and this right here, once again, is an honor and a privilege. With that being said, let me get right to this distinguished collection of panelists that we have today. Our first panelist is a creative director with a decade of experience bringing ideas to life in the worlds of advertising, media, music, and entertainment. He's a copywriter and creative producer with a breadth of experience executing content-driven campaigns for legacy music and entertainment brands like Billboard, Vibe, Rolling Stone, and Revolt TV. In 2022, he leveraged that experience to create Sage Green, a creative consultancy that seeks to bring a fresh outlook to marketing and advertising for artists and brands operating in the music space. CEO and creative director, KWASI BOADI.
Appreciate the warm intro, Michael. Appreciate that. Happy to be here. Looking forward to talking to you guys.
Honor and a privilege, sir. Honor and a privilege. My next panelist is a distinguished music journalist whose journey into the industry is as compelling as the stories she covers. Originally, she began as a curator with a passionate mission to create safe spaces for creatives, be it the singer you know, or someone's cousin who raps, even the everyday poet she might meet at a coffee shop. Currently producing her own late-night series titled Late Night with BEBE FLIGHT, set to premiere in August 2024, music journalist and media personality, Ms. BEBE FLIGHT.
I was loving that intro. Like, you did that. Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here and excited to chop it up with everybody.
This highly esteemed panelist is a New York City-based writer, blogger, and music journalist. She got her start in the music industry as a publicity intern for a major label, and with a foundation in public relations, she transitioned to journalism. Her published bylines include XXL, NME, Alternative Press, Billboard, and more. It is an honor and a privilege to introduce freelance music journalist, Allison Hazel.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys.
It is an honor and a privilege to have each and every one of you here. My first question for the panel is, when was the first time you fell in love with music?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a really good one, honestly. Is there any specific order that we should jump in, or do we just kind of dive in whenever?
KWASI, jump in.
All right, all right, all right. I'll kick things off. I think so I think we all, especially lovers of like music and hip hop specifically, right? We always talk about these different records or songs as being kind of like these timestamp moments. Those things that you go back to and you're like, oh, when I think of XYZ moment, I hear this particular album like playing. And I think for me, some of those are like Lil Wayne, The Carter 2, like Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I'll say that one at risk of dating myself. But I think if I had to isolate it down into like one particular moment, I think for me, it was probably like getting put onto Nas, riding around in my older brother's like car passenger seat, when he was just running his errands and I was just kind of tagging along doing whatever. I think getting to hear some of those records, whether it was like Illmatic or the Lost Tapes or, some of those other albums that came out in that like late 90s, early 2000 time period, really just opened my eyes to like that music was so much more than music, I guess, that it really is this like medium for self-expression and for storytelling. And I think hearing that kind of cemented that idea in my mind at a really young age. So,
Allison, when did you first fall in love with music?
I think, well, to be honest, I would say like all my life, like I was one of those kids that just like grew up on music. I have a Caribbean background, so I'm heavily into like reggae. It's so good just like listening to that growing up. And I think too, being like a native New Yorker, like WBLS, High 97, Power 105, like I was always like just listening to that as a kid, like on the way to school. So honestly, like I just grew up like loving music. I used to play the violin too back in the day. So
Okay.
yeah.
BB, same question for you, my dear.
I feel like because music constantly soundtracked my life, because was Jamaican, so my mom worked a lot of jobs. So growing up, she used to play Bob Marley and the Wailers, and I'd just be laying by the vinyl and just listen to it back to back. And my mom was like, you know what? I didn't need a babysitter. Just play the album a few times and come back. She'll still be right there. And I noticed that like music has soundtracked so many parts of my life that it was hard not to fall in love with it.
As we transition into our formal line of questioning, KWASI, I'll start with you, sir. What inspired you to go out on your own with Sage Green after being with such established brands in entertainment?
that's a good question. I think for me, it really was just a function of trying to create the thing that I didn't necessarily see in the music industry at the time. So, like I mentioned before, I've personally loved music and hip hop and R&B specifically since I was a kid. And coming up, I always kind of had this vision of wanting to work in that space, right? And so I landed at Billboard. I started out on like the digital team before I moved over to our creative team, where I was a writer, producer, talent booker, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of took me to Rolling Stone and to Revolt. And so all those different experiences, I think, added a whole bunch of things to my tool belt, if you will. But the one thing that it didn't necessarily put me in the position to do was actually work to promote the artists that I love. I'd gotten so many opportunities to interview, to write about, to produce content and documentaries about the artists that I loved at the time, but never got the chance to actually take all those things and put that towards working on behalf of the artists to help them tell their stories a little bit better. And so, after a lot of prodding from my wife and, just kind of a lot of digging real deep and soul searching, if you will, I decided to start Sage Green as this organization, this agency, this consultancy that really kind of takes a lot of the things that we do in the advertising and storytelling space, but uses those things and leverages that kind of practice to help market artists' albums, help storytell around their merch, their tours, etc., in a way that feels a little bit different, a little bit more tailored, and a little bit more bespoke for the artist that's trying to get their message out there. So.
Would it be a fair assessment to say that the manner in which you've taken that angle is a passion of yours?
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. I mean, you know, I don't know. I still get, because I've always been interested in this kind of like intersection between music and marketing, advertising, and just kind of general storytelling. And so when I see artists go out their way to have like that really dope rollout, I'm always kind of taking a mental note of that, you know. I think back to like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like West Side Boogie, for instance. I think he had like one of the best rollouts that I'd seen in quite some time, a couple of years ago when he put out his most recent work. And, you know, just seeing the way that he kind of took the story that he was getting across in the album and then leveraged that into building a whole campaign and a whole narrative around it for his fans that's the kind of stuff that I get up for in the morning. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to, you know, continue kind of putting out there with the artists that I end up working with. So definitely a passion for sure.
BB, can you tell us how being in so many different stops or making so many different stops in your career journey, just going through your bio was like, okay, that's one location, that's one location, that's one location. I was like, okay, I like this. Like, how has being in so many different stops changed your views, if they have, on Black music?
So many different stops. I took that as an area because I work festivals too. So I'm in Austin and I do Atlanta, and it changed my perspective on music because what we like as New Yorkers, what? Go down south, it's a different energy. Go to LA, it's a different energy. Like everybody likes what they like. And it's just, you know, I kind of conformed with them, like, oh, I'm starting to like this a little bit. And I feel like it shows that music is diverse, and of course it's subjective. You can't, what you like, somebody might not like. So that's something that I loved learning that, honestly.
Allison, what has been your experience writing for smaller publications versus larger publications?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so I would say like logistically, it's pretty similar as far as, you know, you pitching an editor or maybe an editor coming to you with assignment. Like the paperwork is the same, like those contracts, those invoices, like, you know, the going back and forth. But I guess the key difference would be, for example, a larger publication, you may want to pitch earlier because there's so many different editors, right? For example, like a Billboard, there's like, you know, a hip hop editor, a dance editor, a Latin editor. So depending on like, you know, what you kind of want to pitch, versus like a smaller publication, they may have like maybe 1 to 3 editors, right? And I think also too with like smaller publications, you get like the freedom kind of to be more like creative or kind of discover a new artist or a new music scene versus like something larger. Obviously they want like those mainstream kind of 24/7 news cycle kind of like stories. So yeah, I think they both have their like, you know, pros and cons, but me personally, like it's just about like storytelling. Like the byline is not really like my motivating factor.
This is a group question, so feel free to jump in as each one of you so choose. But I'm curious to know, from a writer's perspective, from the perspective where each of you are as professionals, and it's a 2-part question. Is there something that the Black narrative is missing? Why it's a 2-part question? From the professional perspective, which you are the most qualified individuals to give that assessment, but also as a consumer, right? So between those two angles, perspectives, what do you feel that the Black narrative in music particularly is missing? If you got to think
I
about
think
it, it's all right, because we had to think about it when we came up with these questions. So yeah, it's a thinkable question.
you definitely making us sit here and think a little bit, Michael. I'm like, damn. I
I was
mean,
like, Quasi, go.
honestly, what is it missing? I think like a lot of just storytelling outside of like the music and entertainment space. One of the things that might be missing a little bit is just some of like the cultural nuance around things, right? I think right now, one thing that we're seeing in the media landscape is that things are so kind of competitive, and everybody is competing to get the most shocking headline that's going to run across your Instagram feed, to the point where I feel like when it comes to storytelling and telling narratives around artists, we're getting a little bit less of that like full scale picture of who an artist really is before we necessarily like buy into them, right? It's kind of like, all right, this is just the next hottest person that's out right now, but it seems like that person more often than not might only be around for the moment, because before we've gotten all the storytelling that the double XLs and the vibes of the world typically do, we're already we haven't bought in enough, and then we're on to the next thing, or we're on to the next thing that's hit our Instagram feeds before we were able to really build up that loyalty or that kind of investment in the last person that was at the top of our Instagram scroll. So I think one of the things that we're kind of lacking is that like that real deep nuance about who an artist is, as opposed to just like what it is that they're doing that you're supposed to be paying attention to right this second.
Okay. Anyone else with the
Allison, you wanna go? I wanna. Okay.
Okay.
Who's going?
No, you're happy. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I feel like something that is missing is the need or desire to have resolutions. Because I noticed one thing, that straight narrative, people complain like there's no more '90s R&B music. Yes, there is. Like, let's give people the resolutions, give the consumers resolution, because there's indie artists that give that same feeling that people say doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I always feel like as a journalist, we have to be extra great at research. So why is it that these people keep complaining and we don't have these articles that say the answer, and we give name drops of all these artists that these are the 90s, this makes me feel like this. So I honestly feel like the sincere resolution for the consumer, because they can't access to what we have.
Okay. Allison, your thoughts on that topic?
That leads into perfectly. Yeah, that leads into perfectly what I was gonna say from a business perspective, like opportunities and access, right? Like we see time and time again on the timeline, like sometimes Black reporters or journalists complain about when they're doing like junkets or even red carpets, they need to be pushed, to the end, or they may not have as much time with an artist to do like, interviews and stuff like that. So I think like having those opportunities and having that like access of going to events, getting approved to things, regardless of readership, just because it may not be completely mainstream, there's still an audience, right? For example, like our legacy publications, our Ebony's, our Essence, our BETs, like and so forth. So I think even though they do get a lot of opportunities, but there's even people coming up under them in primarily the digital space, like the Revolts of the world. Literally there's so many Black publications, The Root, Grill, so forth and so forth. So I think if it was, an equal kind of playing field, you would see more of the content that you want to see. So
as covering the music industry as a journalist for the times that you have, right? So obviously no one in this group started the day before yesterday, right? So in the time that you've all had to learn, grow, master your craft, continually grow within your skill, how has, from the journalistic perspective, how has covering music changed for you? What do you like? What do you not like?
I think honestly, it's kind of what your question makes me think about something that BB mentioned before, being a journalist from New York that's had to cover all these different Southern sounds and everything. I think for me, it's just opened my perspective a lot more. It's opened my perspective and it's put me in positions to think about the artists that I want to cover, or the sounds or the trends that I want to storytell about, outside of the context of just what might come up on my, insert Spotify playlist here. Really having to explore like the breadth of what's out there. Because again, like somebody on the panel mentioned, there's just so much going on. There's a new artist that's out there to listen to every single day. And for every complaint about the fact that, we don't have anything that sounds like 90s R&B, or where's all the like conscious hip hop in the midst of all this stuff that's coming out of insert Southern city here. There is an artist that's out there that's doing that thing. It's just they haven't gotten the necessary pub, right? But it's on the journalists and the publications that they work for and write for to provide that. And so I think, being lucky enough to cover some of my favorite artists over the years, it's kind of opened my eyes to that. Whether it's, getting to cover an Alicia Keys, or like getting to cover Saba, who I think is like one of the most talented artists out of Chicago, hands down, who, when I got the chance to write about him 6-7 years ago, I felt like I was like screaming into a void, into a vacuum that nobody else was really a part of.
Allison, I'd like your response to that. Well, how has things changed for you, good or bad?
I would say like, well, a perfect example, literally earlier this month, I covered Gov Ball, and Governors Ball is like a really diverse lineup, right? So you get a little bit of everything, like indie rock. So like Tizo Touchdown was on that lineup, and that's somebody I've been following for a while. Like some people like him, some people, not so much, but it's different. Like that's that kind of like that rock kind of sound. But also Sexy Red was on that lineup. So it's just like I think kind of going to your question, we're in like a cool space to where those two artists could kind of like coexist, which is really cool. Me, ironically, like I'm a very like reserved, kind of shy a bit person, but my career obviously is very like extroverted. So like even covering on the ground, which is different now, you see people doing like their lavalier mics, which goes back to like, undergrad, we learn how to like, mic those up, but you see people going around social media with the like, little tiny mics, just like, doing interviews like that or whatever, but being like, trained how to do that and kind of like using that like in the field, or like even creating like reels and social clips versus combining that with writing. So yeah, I think those things kind of changed. Like essentially everyone's like a multimedia journalist now, whether you kind of like it or not, you're kind of like essentially pushed to do those kind of things, which helps us, writers get out of our shell a little bit more. So
BB, I'm curious to know, right? I'm gonna deviate just a little bit. I'll get in trouble by Will later, but I'm gonna deviate just a little bit, right? My question to you would be, you mentioned that everyone has a problem, but no one speaks of a resolution, correct?
Yeah.
So to that, my question would be, Miss Host of an upcoming late night program, could we, to a degree, consider Late Night with BB Flight to be your contribution for a resolution to what's not available?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where the thought came from, because at first I had something called the Indie Spotlight, and I kind of was like, oh, everybody has Indie Spotlights. I don't want to have anything called the BB Show. And originally I write for other podcasts and I write segments. I love writing segments. So I was like, I have all these segment ideas and I would love to do them with these artists. And one night with my friends, and he was like, yeah, it sounds like you would do a late night show though. And I was like, late night with BB Flight. It just sounded like it clicked. And literally how we're writing the script, I'm using new artists, I'm using mainstream artists, and it's just to get to know them better. Because I feel like our our audiences, like just like how we get to Tizo, I got to Tizo because he used to do these crazy interviews after every one of his concerts. And it's like, that's how I got to know him. Like, I love like little things like that. And just, of course, like we have the mic performance platforms, which are great, but I feel like we need something different. We need more memories with these artists so that we can remember them.
Okay. Okay. Let me go to this question. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's dropped a question via the social media platform, who's emailed in questions, who stopped people on the panel, on the committee, on the street to be like, hey, make sure you ask this. I want to say thank you to you, because without you, you really make all of this even more worthwhile than what it is. So this is an open floor question, and it comes through social media. The question is, there is no way to deny that the quality of hip-hop music has decreased significantly since the quote-unquote golden age. How do you effectively report, contribute, help the growth of a genre that lacks the aesthetic that you may be accustomed to? And no, I did not write that. I'm looking at it like that sounds like something I would have said.
I mean, I've got an answer, but I don't know if Allison and BB want to jump in first.
Anytime somebody asks me about like, that type of question, I ask how they receive music. Because if there are people that's just listening to the radio, that's why you're not getting to those golden age lyricist type of rappers. Domani, I feel like T.R.'s son is a very great lyricist. So it's just like they're coming. It might be slower because like a lot of times hip hop kind of works more on the business side.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback off that, I think it's honestly really symptomatic of just like streaming in general, right? Like streaming has put us in this position where we have this amazing tool where literally whatever song by whatever genre is available at your fingertips, but it's actually put us in a position that's made us more lazy than ever as like music consumers. Like I still, as I'm sure like Allison and BB probably remember, like I still remember like the days of having to go on SoundCloud or LimeWire or whatever to like, go download something. I would hear one song from an artist and then I would dive into their entire discography, and mess up all the computers in my parents' house in the process, right? But I feel like streaming has put us in this position where everybody is so used to everything being spoon-fed to them. And so they're not going out and looking for the artist that still kind of fits that golden era build, if you will, right? And so I don't think it's that music on the whole has gotten worse. Hip hop definitely hasn't gotten worse, I would say. I think the what's being put in front of your face has a much different sound to it, but that doesn't mean that artists that sound a little bit more like the classics that we all came up on are not out there. You just have to be willing to actually do the work to go looking for that as a fan. And, the amazing journalists, the Allisons, the BBs of the world have to be willing to push their editors and the people that they're working for to help publicize those artists in addition to the Sexy Reds or whoever else who's out here getting that pub for free.
Yeah, and I would say too, I think people like the artists that people grew up on, like I guess those legacy acts, they're still making music though too, which is another, they're still making music, they're still out here. I think with like hip hop, in the span of like, music compared to other genres, it's still relatively, new. It was just the 50th anniversary, like, not that long ago. So yeah, the artists are still out there. And I think also too, it's more expansive in a way, right? So now like we're seeing more different like subgenres, right? So I think depending on what you listen to or what you like palette is, you can find those things. But I do agree, though, obviously streaming in numbers, like, you might hear a random song like, yo, who is this or whatever. So yeah, I think it all kind of plays into each other, but those artists are still out here making music for sure.
And at the end of the day, I mean, you know, I think BB might have said this before, like it's all subjective, right? Like one of my best friends from childhood, like he and I grew up literally debating hip hop stuff. You know, he was the one that was always putting me on and educating me about stuff. Fast forward however many years later, like, you know, we used to both be like the biggest Nas fans of the world. Like we were only ever listening to like the most lyrical person. But now like Future's his favorite artist and Nas is his second favorite. Just because like even though Future is not coming with the same type of content that a Nas or somebody else of that ilk is coming with, there is something that Future is bringing to his music and to his delivery, excuse me, in the way that he's kind of approaching a record that is different, right? And at the end of the day, whether you want to say that's better or that's worse, it's all subjective.
Let me not, once again, let me thank my social media contributors who have sent questions. Here is a question from a student. Their question is, what are ways that they as a student can start gathering examples, being that they're interested in pop culture journalism? Did any of you have experience covering hard news in your journalism career? And did that experience, if had, factor into your experience covering music?
I love this question because it reminds me of like my younger self. So yes, I actually have a journalism background. I went to Delaware State University. Shout out to HBCUs, right? And you know, you're essentially, you know, trained to be a traditional broadcast, print, whatever, journalist, right? So you're doing like the inverted pyramid, the 5 Ws, who, what, when, where, why, like how to write a news story. Like you could probably like look up my like videos from me from years ago to where I'm like with a mic like this doing a stand-up traditionally, like as if I'm on ABC7 or something, right? So that that journalism kind of background, my advice would be to people who want to get into pop particularly, right? Pop or entertainment or music, maybe basically arts and entertainment journalism, is definitely start doing it now, like on your own. Like I know like that kind of like sucks in a way because it's like maybe people will listen, maybe people will not. Like I literally started a blog out of my dorm room and I never would have thought that people would read it or see it. And that's like landed me like internships. Like my internship at Billboard was because I was like doing my own thing, like looking at artists on SoundCloud, writing about Joey Badass and like stuff like that. Like so, but yeah, now you know, podcasts are the thing, right? Newsletters are the thing, right? It's not so much blogs anymore. So kind of just like going with the times. So I would say start a podcast, start a newsletter, a social media page, and you'll be surprised. And it also gives you that momentum, and you'll become like more comfortable like on camera, and you'll become more comfortable with, you know, the sound of your voice, learning how to like edit, stuff like that. So yeah, just trial and error, but yeah, I would say definitely start it now.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice and kind of mirrors kind of what I was gonna get at. It's like, you know, the same way that it's easier than ever to make music now because of all these different advancements in technology, social media, and everything else, it's easier than ever, for better or for worse, to, you know, kind of start to build your own media platform. And I think at the end of the day, like what the larger publications are looking for is somebody that's able to not only write well or create content well, but is willing to kind of have a POV. And luckily, because of Instagram, because of TikTok, you don't have to necessarily wait until you get into the big building to show, you know, the people that frequent your social channels that you have a POV. Like so many of the accounts that I follow on TikTok right now are literally just folks creating content telling me what they think are like the 5 dopest songs that came out in the last 7 days. And, you know, that might not have passed for journalism, quote unquote, like maybe 10, 15 years ago. But, you know, to a point that Allison made earlier, now every journalist to some extent has to be a multimedia journalist, and making that 60-second video talking about the 10 best songs that you heard this month is just a different form of storytelling. And that's what they're really looking for at the end of the day, is who can craft a story that people want to listen to.
Let me ask this. Oh, BB, I didn't want to miss you. Did you have
No, go ahead.
question?
No, I wanted you to say the question again because everybody's getting so deep. I kind of lost the question. Not gonna lie.
The question was from a student, and basically the student is asking, as they're, you know, they're searching to get into the journalism aspect of pop culture, music. Your previous experiences, were any of them in traditional hard journalism? Or how has the previous experiences helped round you to basically where you are now?
I just
And
jumped in.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut
And
you. What would your recommendation be? What would your recommendation be to them?
I jumped in, and my best advice would be remind everybody that you're the consumer. When I first started, I had a name called Music Junkie, Diary of a Music Junkie. And I would just say the music that I was listening to. But I would also correlate to the music that has released years ago, because history repeats itself. So a lot of the like pop artists now, they're influenced by other people. Like right now, I was just telling someone, I was like, right now we're in the Missy Elliott era of rap artists. And they're like, how? I was like, Tierra Whack, like Kaylee 47. Like that, we're in Missy babies. Everybody always is so quick to be like, she might be a Little Kim. I'm like, nah, we're in Missy's era right now. So it's just saying things like that. Well, just being honest about what you're listening to and being consistent. That's all I got, Mike.
Okay. All right. We'll drop the mic on that one. Question. Obviously, I got plenty of them, right? Do you feel that people believe mainstream music? Excuse me, let me rephrase that. Do you feel that people believe that the decline of Black mainstream music is due to the lack of connection between the participants thereof and the Black church? Being that so many musicians, so many singers, choir directors, writers of music, ministers of music came from the church. So do you feel that that Black music now is missing something because that training ground might not be there?
That's an interesting question. I think, I don't know. I'm hesitant to say that it's because of a declining connection to the Black church, because, I mean, decades ago, there was still, you know, there was still pockets for so many different kinds of music, whether they be religiously leaning or more secular, right? And you did have like those secular genres that were pulling certain sounds and elements from the Black church. So I think it's an interesting question. I wouldn't say that that's completely out of the question, but I think if you want to make an argument that music is declining, quote unquote, I think it's more because of the distancing from like just the soul of the actual process, whether you want to take that in a religious sense or not. You know, I guess when I say soul, I mean, you know, really feeling like the artists that are getting pushed to the front of our social media, to the tops of these different publications, headlines, and things like that, really feeling like the music that you're getting from them is something that they really put themselves into, something that they really kind of wanted to use to connect with a wider audience by sharing their story or sharing a little piece of themselves. And because of the monetization side of it, I do think that we're getting a lot more of artists who feel like they're not necessarily trying to connect with us in an authentic way as much as they're trying to they're trying to basically sell us whatever it is they think is going to, result in mass consumption. So, I wouldn't, I guess I wouldn't say that it's completely in a result of the distancing from the church per se, but I do think that there's something at play there when you consider the fact that monetization has become more important than actual connectivity and more important than actually like putting yourself into the art that you're sharing with the world.
Allison, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think today like the composition is just kind of different, right? Versus like the 90s and 2000s. Like we all know like those uh R&B groups, the girl groups, the guy groups, like when they were taken to the bridge, like they were taking it there. Like remember the videos like in the open field, like pouring their heart out, crying, like all kinds of stuff. We're not really getting that so much more. It's more like people kind of, coined the term toxic R&B or even like the post trap soul era where people are just kind of vibing, just. But I think it's with the times because we're also kind of what BB was saying too. We're in different eras, so I feel like now the kids or people who grew up on that, right? We're in the day party era, the I'm chilling in the backyard kind of vibes. Like it's Juneteenth weekend, so I'm pretty sure people are gonna just be people are just chilling and rocking. Like people are just doing different things now. So I think it's just maybe just has to do with like the evolution of it. I don't think not so much, but I will say like past generations, like obviously, their training ground essentially was singing in choirs. Like a lot of people come from that kind of, era of singing in choirs or singing in church or doing like talent shows, that kind of vulnerability. Showtime at the Apollo. We're not, you know what I mean? We don't really have those kind of things so much anymore. So maybe that has to do with it too.
BB?
I don't really think the Black church is missing, like Kiara Shear just did Tiny Desk last week. Like, fantastic. I don't think that has anything to do with like I don't think it's effective. I don't think it has anything to do with it. Because I just feel like the way gospel music is set up, they are a flourishing artists that are doing gospel and they stick to doing gospel. I feel like back then it was easier to get a gospel artist to transition to R&B and we had a moment, we had to accept them. It doesn't happen like that now. It's harder. So I feel like in that realm, art like gospel artists even pull up to R&B shows. It's I still think I don't think it's that. I think it's just the fact that music is becoming a money thing and not a cultural thing. Everybody's looking for money instead of looking for the real passion of it. Like we don't have artists like that before because you're not looking for them, you're not putting money behind them. So it's just the business side of it.
As we come to our close, I got two good questions left. Well, question and a half at best, okay? Let me get to this one though. In light of Kendrick Lamar versus Drake back and forth, in light of the chronicles of Sean Combs all through the news, CNN, MSNBC, any format you want, it's front and center. Is there a story in music that has been overshadowed by the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef, by the Diddy story? Is there something that's gotten stuffed down in the couch cushion that you guys feel should be front and center that's not?
I'm going for it. I'm gonna say Method Man's comment on Summer Jam because he was right. But I don't think he should never do it again. I feel like we need to change the curators of these festivals and have the lineup to make sense. I feel like he had made a statement saying that he didn't want to do Summer Jam anymore because the lineup had Sexy Red and then Method Man. The lineups don't correlate.
Right.
I feel like a lot of times, even Ari Lennox, when she was on tour with Rod Wave, like, why? We need to talk about these curations of these lineups. Like, who's doing this? So that's something that I feel like we need to talk about a little more. Because Diddy, I feel like we need to highlight curation and do it better.
Allison, your thought?
There was a story that came out like pretty recently, like this month, and it was about Black women, particularly like leaving the field of journalism. I believe it's Refinery 29 published it, and I think that is interesting because it kind of touched on what we kind of talked about today, and they were saying due to pay, to access, to editors not looking like them or may not understanding their pitches or their way of storytelling. So I think that's like important to kind of highlight because on one side of the spectrum, it's like, people are going to other careers, as they should to, provide for themselves and their family. But on the other side of the spectrum, what's gonna happen to Black stories? We need like, people to tell our stories, or honestly, they won't be told. So finding that like middle ground and then having more, again, access opportunities and equal pay across the board. I think that's an important story that's out right now.
Crazy. Your thoughts?
I think I have kind of a two-part answer there. I think on the more timely front, and it's kind of the low-hanging fruit answer, but I'll offer it up anyway. I think in the span of specifically the whole Drake and Kendrick beef, there were a lot of releases that got stepped on as a result of that, 6-7 week period where we were all tied to our phones. I mean, ironically enough, it sounds like we have a bunch of folks that love R&B on the line here. We've all been waiting for like a Party Next Door album for God knows how long. That was honestly really, really good in relation to his last release, but I feel like that really got no play because the boss of his label, Drake, was, obviously kind of taking the industry by a chokehold, given everything that was going on between him and Kendrick. So I think that on a more timely front, there were a lot of releases that kind of got stepped on a little bit, unfortunately. Rhapsody is another one that kind of came out, I think, in that window where I personally have to like remind myself, oh, let me go and listen to that because I've always had a lot of respect for her music and think she's really dope. But then kind of from a more evergreen standpoint, I think I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more conversations about the intersection of AI and music and the implications around it, because I think a lot of the other creative industries have had to kind of reckon with what AI looks like now and what it's going to mean for their respective industries moving forward. I think back to last year, the writer's strike, like that was a big topic of conversation. And Drake, because of his antics with the whole like Snoop and Tupac AI verse situation, kind of got people talking about it a little bit. But I think that there's a lot more digging that journalists need to do there to kind of just think that through for people a little bit. Like, what are the implications of this going to mean for songwriters, for artists, for publishing splits, and everything in between?
My next question, unless someone had to add in to that, my question to Allison, this is a group question, but I'll start with Allison. What does the future of music look like to you?
That's a good question, really broad. I think the future of music looks like post-streaming. I'm not sure what that would be, and maybe some AI kind of, implication. Maybe we might have like a screen and we're just like, clicking like that, where it's like some type of hologram kind of situation too, where we're listening on the go. Maybe I'm seeing music videos in a way kind of coming back in a digital sense. But people were like raving over Victoria Monet, people were raving over Tinashe, like having her moment. So I think we're gonna kind of see more, maybe visual albums too, kind of. So yeah.
Maybe your
more of a visual aspect.
I think more people are gonna go for independent, and there's gonna be more creativity. And I think like marketing rollouts earlier, somebody brought that up. I think there's gonna be more like better ones. People are gonna start hitting up, they do the on the radar, the KWASI. I feel like the rollout's gonna be much better.
Crazy.
I mean, I think things are gonna get increasingly genre-less. You know, we're already in a moment where so many artists don't want to be confined to like one particular label. It seems like that's a conversation that kind of pops up every time like Grammy nominations and all the other award show nominations come out because folks don't want to be boxed in. But I feel like we've talked about like Tizo, for instance, a couple times on this call, the Tizos of the world, the Tommy Richmonds of the world. I mean, even SZA, like, you know, as big as she is, for as much as she's viewed as being this like future standard bearer of R&B, she's gone out her way to like literally make an album that is only partially R&B and partially pop and partially kind of like indie and singer-songwritery. So, you know, I think that folks are just going to continue to push beyond the realms of being a hip hop artist or an R&B artist. Like I think in the future, folks really are going to just go out their way to just be considered artists, period.
We have at some point got to do this again. Same panel, same bat channel, maybe not the same bat time. This has been an honor and a privilege. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to share your expertise, give your perspectives, share a little vision, you know, mentor by distance some of the students and up-and-comers who've tuned into this episode. So on behalf of the organization, the New York Association of Black Journalists, and those of us who produce for the Sidebar podcast, I want to say thank you. On the way out the door, though, I would be remiss if I did not give everyone that opportunity. Where can the listener and or viewer or both find you guys? Social media, any upcoming plans? We're already aware of Late Night with BB, which I'm looking forward to, right? But aside from that, by all means, take it away. We'll go with Allison. Allison.
Okay, you can find.
Go at socials.
Yeah, you could find me at Allie the Journalist on all platforms and alliethejournalist.com. I have a monthly newsletter, which is really dope. So yeah, check it out at Allie the Journalist.
Miss Flight.
You can find me on Instagram at lipstick, the letter N, lyrics, LYRICSV. And also on Still Got the Juice TV. I'm the lead journalist there. That's where I'm at right now. I'm about to do an interview in a few minutes. And I'm looking forward to I definitely want to do this again, y'all. I'm gonna take down y'all content.
Hopefully I didn't hold anybody too long. Brother KWASI, who mentioned genre-less music, tells me you're a basketball fan for positionless basketball. But proceed.
You've guessed correct. I'm not going to talk about my team affiliations because those are a little bit unfortunate. But on Instagram, y'all can catch me at Quay_Dilla. And you can see some of my more recent work that I have going on through Sage Green at sagegreen.me. Definitely would love to do this again, y'all. This was really dope.
This has truly been an honor and a privilege. Again, my name is Michael Ray. I am a producer for the Sidebar, the podcast of the New York Association of Black Journalists. You have been tuned into our Black Music panel for Black Music Month, the month of June. And on behalf of the organization and my distinguished panelists, of which I got to get the scheduling the next time we do a part 2, we would like to say thank you, and may everyone have a good evening, day, or afternoon, however this may find you. Thank you.
Amazing. It's been fun, y'all. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Michael. Have a great night. Have a great Juneteenth, most importantly. So, bye now.
Good night.
Bye, y'all.